The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon. So, hey friends, it's Lisa G, and tonight we're going straight for the jugular of leadership. Because let's be honest, people don't leave companies, they leave energy leaks. And no, I don't mean bad vibes and crystals. I'm talking about leaders who drain instead of drive. The ones who run meetings that feel like caffeine funerals. The ones preaching accountability but modeling burnout. And according to Gallup, 70% of turnover is tied directly to leadership behavior. So if your top performer just quit, probably wasn't about pay. It was about presence and your ability to manage your own damn energy. And that is exactly what we're unpacking tonight with my friend, powerhouse executive recruiter, Mitch McDermott, man who's seen every hiring mistake in the book. Mitch, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lisa.
I know I had you on the podcast and I enjoyed our alignment on this issue so much. I'm like, we got to do this again, and more people need to hear this. So I want to know, I know you've helped top organizations build dream teams. So tell me why, as a recruiter, you have this special insight into this topic tonight about what's the number one reason great talent walks away.
Yeah, great question. I think as recruiters, people think to look at us for how to hire, how to attract.
Right.
But what they forget is when we are hired to attract, we're talking to a lot of people who are currently working, happy, and getting them to consider a change, even though they may not be actively looking. So we collect a lot of data around what people long for that they don't have today, or what causes pain to where maybe they would look at something else. Because at the end of the day, you don't want your best people shopping around behind your back.
Oh, absolutely not. That's why I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And what do you think is the number one that your top performers are walking away?
Yeah, I think there's really two main ones. I think it's growth, being able to not just hit their ceiling, but blow past it at their current organization. And I think another big one is really just leadership. Like you talked about energy leaks, it's being under leaders who inspire them, that make them want to come in and work hard, versus feeling like a job, right? Leaders that make what they do feel like a career.
Right. So people are looking for that growth and the leadership energy leak. So do you want to share any example of poor energy management?
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's funny too. A big thing I see right now is around lack of purpose. I think people want to connect what they're doing every day to something that makes them feel fulfilled. Work for corporate professionals isn't just about collecting a paycheck. They want to, post-COVID, do something that, meets their values, that they feel like they're making some type of impact, whether that's big or small. And it's a theme we're seeing across, most levels of experience in corporate organizations. But a big one, I have a perfect example. I had a person who, was a top performer at a company. He wasn't looking when our team had reached out to him. And it turns out he had been waiting for a promotion most of 2025. And in order to retain him, his leadership team had talked about, hey, here's a plan we have. Here's what we're doing, right? There are a lot of words, very minimal action. And by the time we had talked to him, he's like, you know what, at this point, like I've been loyal, but the loyalty doesn't feel like it's being returned. And maybe I do need to, look outside of this company if I want to get to the level I want to be at in 5 years. I think the best talent, they have a plan. They're not just focused on next year, but they want to get somewhere further along in their career. And they're looking at if the company they're anchored to today is going to be able to pull them up to that level or not.
Yeah. So the growth and the purpose, I completely agree. That is the absolute truth, Mitch. We're running on fumes here with leaders that are obsessing over KPIs, forget about the EPIs, the energy performance indicators, and leadership starts with emotional intelligence. You don't get what you measure, and culture doesn't run on slogans, it runs on energy. So let's dig deeper from your recruiter's lens. When you talk to candidates, who left? What emotions do you hear the most?
Yeah, a lot of it is a lack of feeling valued.
Okay.
They get their paycheck every 2 weeks, but do they truly feel valued by the leadership team as a top performer, right? I think leaders can get comfortable. Someone's there 2 or 3 years, they get comfortable that person's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And they get used to the performance, right? It's not as surprising as it was the first year, second year, we're like, wow, this person's killing it. It becomes the norm that they become accustomed to. So a big one is lack of feeling valued. Sometimes it is monetary where, hey, I haven't gotten a raise in 2 years, or I've reached a financial ceiling and they're not really willing to work with me on the results I'm driving at the level I am and how I can create more income opportunity for me and my family. And sometimes it's appreciation and growth potential, even just, and the funny thing is appreciation's a feeling, right? Sometimes you can have a budget constraint where you can't give a raise, but it's about how you handle that conversation. I think a lot of times it's about, being able to do what you can do and being honest and real with your person, but showing the appreciation in other ways, right? A lot of times money is important, but if you're feeling appreciated and buckets are being filled in other ways, they don't go to the money. They go to the money because they're not feeling it in other areas of their career at that company.
Yeah. And they're feeling that disconnection, lack of purpose, and the exhaustion too.
Yeah. And you talked about, the energy leaks. Like I personally have been there. I've worked for fear-based cultures as a top performer.
Yeah.
And you start to question, hey, I have the growth, I have the money, but the leadership's not there. Do I really want to be here in 5 years? Do I want to be here in 3? Do I want to be here in 6 months? Like you start to ask yourself those questions because the environment doesn't attract all-star performers. And sometimes attracting is just keeping what you have in place.
Right. And those are all symptoms of what I call energy leaks. And those leaks always start at the top.
Absolutely. And I've even seen it where great companies have poor leaders, right? It's an amazing company, but the employment experience someone has under one VP is a 180 from being underneath another VP. And it's something I don't think a lot of, executive leaders think about when they're building their C-suite or VP level team. But leadership, they're magnets, right? Magnets have 2 poles. And if you put the wrong side together with the wrong side, what does it do? It repels. So, your magnet will either attract the kind of people you want or repel those kind of people away from you, whether that's through an interview process or through people who join and realize it wasn't what they thought it was going to be.
Right. I mean, let's call it out. Half the people are quitting that are running towards something new. They're sprinting away from somebody who exhausts them, on the other hand. So I had a CEO once tell me, Lisa, I don't get it. We do bonuses, free lunches, even half-day Fridays. And I said, that's cute, but do you actually listen? So how important is actually investing in your people and actually actively listening to them and finding out how they're doing, what's going on in their life?
I think it's incredibly important. I mean, we have a client we're working with right now. They're doing a culture turnaround, and it's a small industry. Everyone knows, the leadership team. Some of them have changed, some of them haven't, and they know the brand. And they just invested in a new office. They got a gym. They have all the perks. At the end of the day, people don't care about a free lunch if they're unhappy about the environment they work in, right? I think great companies that do that make them even greater. poor companies that do that, it's just a mask. You see through the mask at some point. People are either going to join for the perks and leave when they realize the reality, or they're going to see through it in the interview process. I think that time and money invested in those things could be better spent on either replacing key leaders that don't amplify the culture you want to create, or investing in developing those people out of, the leadership kind of bucket that they're in today, and trying to coach them into a more emotionally intelligent, evolved leader.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, the perks don't fix the pressure. The people don't quit the paychecks. They quit pressure that feels pointless. And Mitch, from your conversations, what's one leadership behavior that's most misunderstood when it comes to retention and the huge retention problems we're seeing these days?
Yeah. And I think it's only going to get worse with AI, because the future of leadership is going to be all about empathy, all about emotional intelligence. AI can do APIs, they can build the reports. You don't need a person to do that anymore. What you need is someone who can inspire and energize and bring a team together in good and bad times. I think a big thing that I'm seeing is personalization. A lot of, especially larger companies, don't personalize the employee experience. And I think that's going to become more of the norm as leaders have more time to invest in each specific person on their team. That includes creating personalized development plans, right? How many, even great leaders that people like to work for, I bet you less than 20% actually know what their direct reporting team wants in the next 2 to 3 years, personally, professionally, right? Using the company and the career that employee has as a springboard to build the kind of life that they want. I think the best leaders in the future are going to start incorporating that type of personalization into how they lead their teams. And that's going to allow people to feel really invested and purposeful in what they're doing in their work with that company.
And, to your point, the perks without the purpose are noise, and energy alignment beats every fun policy out there. But it's not your fault, leaders, if you're listening. And we've all been disrupted so much in the last 5 years. And sometimes everybody just needs someone to talk to, to bring in, to train people how to address what the employees really want, what your top performers really want right now. And the boss method is, with turnover, burnout, and drama, those people aren't the disease, they're the symptoms. The real problem is weak systems, unchecked energy leaks, and that's why I created the boss method for executive leadership. It's about boosting your EQ, optimizing your energy, managing your mindset, and self-leadership. Because when you fix the leader's internal operating systems, retention becomes effortless. Mitch, when leaders actually start doing that, what kind of transformation do you see in their hiring culture?
Yeah, I think the hiring culture starts to shift, right? I see a shift in interviewing for qualifications to interviewing for culture, which I personally believe is how you build an all-star team. It's not just about the experience, it's about the quality of each individual that you're bringing into your organization. And I think it changes the kind of culture, right? Again, leadership is a magnet. No matter what, it's a magnet. It'll either attract or repel. And as leaders develop in those areas, the kind of people that have those same values will naturally be drawn in. And the ones that don't will be repelled.
Right. That's true in all areas of life, not just leadership. So retention isn't HR's job. It's a leadership mirror. The moment you measure energy instead of effort, everything changes. So here's your wake-up call. This isn't theory. It's a real actionable retention strategy. If you're a leader, founder, or HR exec who's done losing your best people, stop sending out ineffective surveys and start leading with strategy and self-awareness. Mitch and I bring this entire framework, the science, the stories, the step-by-step roadmap, straight into organizations ready to retain top talent, reignite culture. We'll teach your executive team exactly how to implement the boss method inside your leadership structure, So if that sounds like what your company needs, DM me the word speak to book us to speak at your next event or corporate summit. It's time to stop the bleed and start building energy that keeps people. You can't automate empathy. You can't outsource presence, and you can't scale leadership without self-awareness. The leaders winning 2026 won't be the loudest in the room. They'll be the ones people never want to quit. Mitch, thank you for bringing your recruiter's truth and energy tonight. To everyone watching, if you're tired of turnover and ready to rebuild culture from the inside out, DM me, speak right now, because leadership isn't about keeping seats filled. It's about keeping hearts engaged. Mitch McDermott, any final words you want to leave our audience with about your company and where people can find you?
Yeah, I think find me on LinkedIn, but I think it's about time we bring the human back into human capital.
Love it. Bring the human back into human capital. Mitch McDermott on LinkedIn. Thanks for being a fabulous guest.
Thanks, Lisa.